Picture this. Maya Jackson, a fierce black woman, stands triumphant in Phoenix Airport, gripping her first-class boarding pass after crushing a racist gate agent's petty power trip. She boards Horizon Flight 472, leaving smug faces in the dust, until a chilling note lands in her lap mid-flight. "You'll pay for this, interloper." Her victory sours into dread. What began as a seat fight explodes into a war with stakes that could shatter her world or forge an epic legacy. How far will her enemies go to bury her? Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from. And if you stand for justice kicking bias to the curb, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic showdowns like this one coming your way. Maya Jackson strode through the bustling chaos of Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, her heels striking the polished floor with the crisp rhythm of a woman who owned every room she entered. At 42, she was a titan, the biggest private investor in Horizon Airways, a name whispered in boardrooms with equal parts awe and envy. Today, on a blistering August afternoon, the sun baked the tarmac outside, pushing the temperature to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. But inside, Maya was cool as steel. Her tailored blazer hugged her frame, midnight blue against the stark white of her shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows in a casual flex of authority. Dark slacks tapered to her ankles, and her dreadlocks, thick and glossy, swept up into a high bun that crowned her head like a warrior's helm. She carried a sleek leather tote over one shoulder, her lifeline to a world of high-stakes deals, and in her hand, her phone buzzed with updates about Horizon Flight 472 to Seattle. She was headed there for a merger meeting that could shift the airline's future, a deal she'd orchestrated over months of late-night calls and brutal negotiations. Her first-class ticket, Seat 1C, had been locked in weeks ago, a small reward for a woman who rarely paused to celebrate. The terminal hummed with life, a swarm of travelers dragging suitcases, their voices blending into a low roar. Maya weaved through them, her posture straight, her eyes sharp behind slim glasses that caught the overhead lights. She'd flown more times than she could count, crisscrossing the country to build an empire from scratch, and airports were her second home. She knew their rhythms, the way lines ebbed and flowed, the faint smell of jet fuel that clung to the air. Today, though, something felt off, a prickle at the back of her neck she couldn't shake. She chalked it up to exhaustion, the merger's weight pressing down, and pushed it aside. At gate B7, she stepped up to the counter, her boarding pass already pulled up on her phone, a digital beacon of her rightful place. The flight was set to board in 20 minutes, and she wanted to check in early, maybe grab a coffee before the 3-hour hop to Seattle. The gate area was a mess of bodies, kids whining, businessmen barking into phones, but Maya tuned it out, her focus laser-tight. Behind the counter stood Evelyn Pierce, a gate agent whose pinched face looked like it had been carved from sour dough. Her uniform stretched tight across her shoulders, the Horizon Airways logo stitched in gold thread over her chest, and her auburn hair was yanked back into a bun so severe it pulled her skin taut. She was short, barely clearing 5 feet, but carried herself with the swagger of someone who thrived on petty control. Her eyes, small and darting, flicked over passengers like a hawk sizing up prey, and when they landed on Maya, they narrowed into slits. Evelyn's lips pursed, a thin line of judgment, and Maya felt the shift instantly, a cold ripple of hostility she'd faced too many times before. She'd seen that look in boardrooms, on streets, in stores, a silent question etched into every feature. "What's someone like you doing here?" But Maya didn't blink. She'd built her life on proving those looks wrong, and she wasn't about to flinch now. "ID and ticket," Evelyn snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, skipping any hint of courtesy. Maya slid her driver's license across the counter and tapped her phone screen, the boarding pass glowing bright. Maya Jackson, Flight 472, Seat 1C, First Class. She offered a tight smile, professional but warm, the kind she'd perfected to disarm tension. Evelyn snatched the ID, her fingers brushing the plastic with a faint sneer, and peered at the phone like it was a forged dollar bill. She tilted her head, squinting, then huffed through her nose. "This doesn't look right," she said, her tone dripping with accusation, loud enough to turn heads nearby. A man in a rumpled suit glanced over, his eyebrows lifting, and a woman with a toddler clutched her bag tighter, as if Maya might be trouble. Maya's chest tightened, but she kept, her face smooth, her voice level. "It's correct. I booked it 3 weeks ago, confirmed yesterday." Evelyn didn't budge. She spun to her computer, her fingers jabbing the keys with theatrical flair, the clack, clack, clack echoing over the gate's din. Her screen flared with blue light, and she leaned in, her mouth twisting into a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. "System says you're in economy," she announced, her voice rising to carry across the crowd. "Seat 32B, back of the plane." She flicked her gaze to Maya, daring her to argue, and leaned back in her chair, arms folding like she just won a prize. The words hit like a slap, sharp and public, and Maya felt the weight of every stare pinning her in place. A teenage girl in a hoodie whispered to her friend, their giggles cutting through the air, and an older guy in a baseball cap shook his head, muttering something under his breath. Heat crept up Maya's neck, not from the Arizona sun but from the humiliation Evelyn wielded like a blade. Maya took a slow breath, her fingers curling around her phone. She'd faced worse, climbed over higher walls, but this stung in a way that caught her off guard. It wasn't just the downgrade, it was the way Evelyn said it, the smug certainty that Maya didn't belong, couldn't belong, in first class. She'd seen that smirk on countless faces, the kind that assumed her skin, disqualified her from power, from comfort, from respect. But Maya wasn't here to lose. She scrolled through her email, found the confirmation from Horizon dated 3 weeks back, and held it up, the text crisp and undeniable. "Seat 1C, first class, paid in full." "Check again," she said, her voice firm but calm, a steel thread running through it. "This says 1C. There's no wait list, no change." Evelyn's smirk faltered for a split second, a crack in her armor, but she recovered fast. She snatched the phone from Maya's hand, her nails grazing the screen, and squinted at the email like it was written in code. Then she shoved it back, her scoff loud enough to draw more eyes. "That's not what my system shows," she said, her tone climbing to a near shout, making sure every soul within 50 feet heard. "You're in 32B, middle seat economy. If you've got a problem, take it up with customer service." She pointed to a desk across the terminal, a good 100 yards away, her finger jabbing the air like a spear. The crowd shifted, a murmur rippling through them, some nodding like Evelyn was the voice of reason, others watching Maya with pity or suspicion. A woman in a floral dress clutched her purse, whispering to her husband, "She should just go." Maya's jaw tightened, her pulse kicking up a notch. She knew this game, had played it too many times. The loud dismissal, the public shaming, the assumption she'd back down. But she wasn't some rookie traveler scrambling for scraps. She was Maya Jackson, the woman who'd turned Horizon Airways from a mid-tier carrier into a national player, who'd poured millions into its stock and sat in rooms where people like Evelyn couldn't even dream of stepping. She didn't flaunt it, never had, preferred to move in shadows, watching the world reveal itself. Anonymity was her shield, letting her see the airline's guts without the red carpet. Today, though, that shield was cracking and Evelyn was swinging a hammer. She met Evelyn's gaze unflinching and saw the glint there, the petty triumph of a gatekeeper who thought she could decide who belonged where. "I'm not going anywhere," Maya said, her voice low but cutting, each word a stone dropped into still water. "Check your system again or get someone who can." Evelyn's eyes widened, a flicker of surprise, but then her smirk returned, sharper, meaner. She leaned forward, her elbows digging into the counter, and hissed, "I don't care what you think you've got, you're not on my list." The words were a gauntlet, thrown down in front of a growing audience, and Maya felt the air thicken, the tension coiling tight. This wasn't a glitch, not some random error in Horizon's clunky software. Maya had spent enough years reading people, dissecting power plays to know what this was. Prejudice, raw and deliberate, dressed up as protocol. Evelyn didn't see a first-class passenger, didn't see a woman who'd earned every inch of her place. She saw a black woman daring to step out of line, and that was enough to light the match. Maya's fingers twitched, itching to call Tara, her assistant, who could unravel this in minutes. But she held off, wanting to see how far Evelyn would push, how deep this cut would go. The gate agent leaned back, her chair creaking, and waved a hand dismissively. "Next in line," she called, her voice a taunt, as if Maya was already erased. The man in the rumpled suit stepped forward, his ticket ready, but his eyes darted to Maya, uncertain. She didn't move, didn't flinch, her tote still slung over her shoulder, her phone a lifeline in her grip. She'd faced bigger fights, taken down sharper foes, but this moment burned, a spark that could ignite something massive. Evelyn thought she'd won, thought she'd shoved Maya back into place, but she didn't know who she was dealing with. Not yet. Maya's mind raced, calculating her next move, the merger looming, the flight ticking closer. This wasn't just about a seat anymore. It was about power, about who got to draw the lines. And Maya wasn't about to let Evelyn hold the pen. Maya Jackson stood rooted at Gate B7, her heels planted firm against the scuffed linoleum of Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, refusing to let Evelyn Pierce's venomous smirk erase her. The gate agent's words still echoed, a public slap that stung, deeper than the August heat pressing against the terminal's glass walls. Around her, the crowd buzzed, a restless hive of travelers casting sidelong glances, some with pity, others with faint amusement, as if Maya were a sideshow act gone wrong. Her blazer felt heavier now, the fabric clinging to her shoulders, but she straightened her spine, her dreadlocks swaying slightly as she tilted her chin up. She wasn't about to crumble, not here, not for Evelyn's cheap power trip. This wasn't just a seat. It was a line in the sand, and Maya had spent her life stepping over lines others drew to keep her out. She slid her phone from her pocket, her thumb swift as she dialed Tara Brooks, her executive assistant and a one-woman wrecking crew when it came to cutting through corporate nonsense. Tara picked up on the first ring, her voice crackling with energy despite the 3-hour time difference back in Chicago. "Maya, what's up? You're boarding soon, right?" Maya kept her tone even, a calm that masked the fire simmering beneath. "I've got a gate agent here saying I'm not in first class, bumped me to 32B. My confirmation says 1C. Something's off." Tara's sharp inhale sliced through the line. "You're kidding me. Hold on, I'm pulling everything up now." Maya could hear the rapid tap of keys, Tara's fingers flying across her laptop, a sound as familiar as a war drum to anyone who'd worked with her. While Tara worked, Maya's eyes locked onto Evelyn, who'd turned to the next passenger, a rumpled businessman with a wilted tie, scanning his ticket with a syrupy smile that hadn't graced Maya's exchange. The double standard was blatant, a neon sign flashing prejudice, and it twisted something deep in Maya's gut. She'd faced this before, the subtle and not-so-subtle ways people tried to shrink her, but today it hit different, raw and jagged. Maybe it was the merger looming, the weight of a deal that could redefine Horizon Airways, or maybe it was just exhaustion from fighting the same battles over and over. Either way, she wasn't backing down. Tara's voice snapped her back. "Got it. Your ticket's solid, Maya. Seat 1C, booked 3 weeks ago, confirmed yesterday at 2:37 p.m. Central. No changes, no wait list. I've got the email, payment receipt, everything, sending it all to you now." Maya's phone pinged as the files landed, a digital arsenal at her fingertips. She opened the email, the confirmation glowing bright, and stepped back to the counter, cutting off the businessman mid-sentence. He stammered, stepping aside, and Evelyn's head jerked up, her smirk souring into a scowl. "I told you, you're in 32B, she barked, her voice loud enough to ripple through the gate area again, drawing fresh stares. Maya didn't flinch. She held up her phone, the screen a shield, and kept her voice steady, each word a deliberate strike. "Check your system again. This says I'm in 1C first class, confirmed. I'm not moving until this is fixed." Her tone was iron, unyielding, the kind she'd used to silence boardroom doubters, and it landed like a punch. Evelyn's eyes flickered, a crack in her bravado, but she doubled down, her fingers slamming the keyboard with exaggerated force. The monitor's blue glow bathed her face, and for a moment she froze, her lips twitching as if she'd bitten, something bitter. Then she leaned back, arms crossing tight over her chest. "It's waitlisted now," she said, her voice climbing to a near shout, a performance for the growing audience. "Take 32B or get off my flight." The words were a dare, a shove, and the crowd reacted, a murmur swelling like a wave. A teenage girl in a hoodie snickered, her friend whispering behind a hand, while an older man in a baseball cap muttered, "Just sit down already," his tone thick with impatience. Maya felt the heat of their judgment, a spotlight she hadn't asked for, but she'd faced worse storms than this. She scanned the gate, her mind racing, and spotted a supervisor hovering near a coffee kiosk, his Horizon badge glinting under the lights. Greg Torres, mid-30s, with a sheen of sweat on his brow and a clipboard clutched like a lifeline, looked like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. Maya waved him over, her gesture sharp, and he shuffled toward her, his sneakers squeaking, on the floor. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice low, wary, as if he sensed the tension coiling tight. Maya handed him her phone, the confirmation email open, and laid it out, her words clipped but controlled. "I'm booked in 1C first class." She's saying I'm in economy, no explanation. This isn't a glitch, it's deliberate. Fix it. Greg's eyes darted to the screen, then to Evelyn, who'd turned away, pretending to busy herself with a stack of boarding passes. Greg hesitated, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard, then took the phone and stepped to the counter. "Let me see the manifest," he said to Evelyn, his tone tentative but firm. She huffed, rolling her eyes, but slid the keyboard toward him, her fingers tapping an impatient rhythm on the edge. Greg typed, his brow furrowing as he scrolled, and Maya watched his face shift, confusion giving way to a flicker of alarm. "This says 1C's hers," he muttered almost to himself, then louder. "It's confirmed, Evelyn. No waitlist, no reassignment." Evelyn's smirk vanished, her jaw tightening, but she didn't argue, just shrugged like it was nothing. Greg tapped a few more keys, his hands shaky, and looked up at Maya. "You're good. 1C's yours, sorry about this." He handed back her phone, his apology a thin thread in the thick air. Maya nodded, her pulse easing slightly, and took her boarding pass as the printer spat it out, the ink still wet. She turned to board, her tote swinging lightly, her head high as she passed Evelyn, whose glare could have melted steel. The gate agent's eyes bored into her back, a silent promise of something darker, and Maya felt it, a shiver that wasn't from the AC. She stepped onto the jet bridge, the tunnel's hum swallowing the terminal's noise, and let herself breathe. She'd won, forced their hand, reclaimed what was hers. The other passengers parted as she moved, some nodding in quiet respect, others avoiding her gaze. But she didn't care. She'd stared down Evelyn's bias and walked away with her dignity intact. Or so she thought. As she settled into 1C, the plush leather cradling her, she replayed the scene. The victory, bittersweet. Evelyn's defeat had been public, her smirk wiped clean, but that glare lingered in Maya's mind, a shadow that wouldn't fade. She glanced out the window, the tarmac shimmering in the heat, and caught a glimpse of Evelyn through the gate's glass, whispering to a coworker, her hands gesturing wildly. "She won't get far," Maya lip-read, the words a faint echo in her skull. Her stomach twisted, a knot of unease tightening. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. She'd won the battle, but the war was brewing, and Evelyn's parting shot felt like a loaded gun. "Hey, real quick, what do you think about Maya standing her ground like that? Drop a comment with number 1 if you're cheering her on against Evelyn's trash attitude, or number 2 if you think she should have just taken the economy seat to avoid the drama. Either way, if you're fired up about seeing justice smack down gatekeepers like Evelyn, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. This fight's just getting started, and trust me, you'll want to see how it explodes. So, what's your take? Has Maya crushed it? Or is she walking into a trap she can't outsmart? What happens when that note from the hook lands in her lap? Maya Jackson sank into the plush embrace of seat 1C, the leather cool against her back as Horizon Flight 472 climbed into the Arizona sky, leaving Phoenix's blistering sprawl behind. The cabin hummed with the steady drone of engines, a sound that usually lulled her into focus, but today it felt like a cage rattling shut. 30 minutes aloft, the seatbelt sign flicked off, and she exhaled, her shoulders loosening for the first time since gate B7. Her tote rested at her feet, her phone silent in her lap, and she reached for the glass of water a flight attendant had slipped her during boarding, the ice clinking softly as she took a sip. The victory over Evelyn Pierce lingered, a sharp-edged triumph that tasted more like grit than glory. She'd forced the gate agent to eat her own words, reclaimed her place with proof and steel, but that whispered threat, "She won't get far," gnawed at her, a splinter she couldn't pull free. The first-class cabin was a bubble of quiet privilege, a stark contrast to the chaos she'd left behind. A businessman 2 rows up flipped through a Wall Street journal, his pen scratching notes in the margins, while a woman in a silk scarf sipped champagne, her eyes half closed. Maya let her gaze drift to the window, the earth a patchwork of brown and gold 35,000 feet below, clouds streaking past like torn cotton. She tried to shake the unease, chalk it up to adrenaline still pumping from the showdown, but her instincts, honed over decades of navigating corporate minefields, screamed that something was off. She'd built her empire by trusting those instincts, and now they were buzzing like a live wire. A shadow fell across her tray table, and she glanced up to see a flight attendant looming over her. His lanky frame hunched slightly in the low ceiling. His name tag read Kyle Vance, and his face was a mask of nerves. Pale skin stretched tight over sharp cheekbones, his blonde hair slicked back with too much gel. His hands trembled as he thrust a folded slip of paper toward her, his fingers brushing hers with a clammy chill. "This is for you," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper, eyes darting to the side like a cornered animal. Maya's pulse kicked up, a jolt that sent the water glass wobbling. She took the note, her fingers steady despite the sudden tightness in her chest, and unfolded it slowly, the paper crinkling in the silence. Scrawled in jagged black ink were 5 words that hit like a fist. "You'll pay for this, interloper." Her breath caught, a sharp hitch that echoed in her skull. She scanned the cabin, her eyes slicing through the dim light, searching for a clue, a face, anything. The businessman kept scribbling, oblivious. The champagne lady adjusted her scarf, her lips pursed in a private smile. A young guy in a hoodie near the bulkhead scrolled his phone, earbuds dangling. No one met her gaze, no one twitched, but the air felt heavier now, thick with an unseen threat. She snapped her head back to Kyle, who'd already started to retreat, his sneakers silent on the carpet. "Wait," she said, her voice low but firm, stopping him cold. "Who gave you this?" Kyle turned, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed, his eyes wide with something close to panic. "A guy in coach," he stammered, his words tumbling out fast. "Big dude, bald, didn't catch his name. Handed it to me when I was passing out snacks, said give it to the lady in 1C. That's all I know." Maya's mind raced, a dozen threads tangling at once. A passenger? Some random bigot who'd caught wind of the gate drama? Or worse, someone tied to Evelyn, a pawn in a bigger play. She held up the note, her fingers tightening around the edges, and fixed Kyle with a stare that could have cracked stone. "You didn't see anything else? No details?" He shook his head, his hands twisting together. "No, ma'am. He was just, a guy. I didn't think much of it till I read it." His voice cracked on the last word, and he backed away, disappearing behind the curtain to coach before she could press harder. Maya's grip on the note tightened, the paper crumpling slightly, her knuckles paling against her skin. This wasn't random. It was too precise, too pointed, delivered right to her seat. She pressed the call button, her thumb firm, and within moments, a new figure emerged from the cockpit door, her presence cutting through the cabin like a blade. Captain Lisa Monroe was a tall woman, her pilot's uniform crisp, her salt and pepper, hair cropped close, her stride exuding the kind of authority that came from years commanding the skies. Her dark eyes locked onto Maya, sharp and assessing as she stopped beside 1C. "You rang?" she asked, her voice smooth but edged with steel, a tone that said she didn't waste time. Maya handed her the note without a word, watching Lisa's face as she read it. The captain's jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath her skin, and she folded the paper with deliberate care, her gaze flicking back to Maya. "Where'd this come from?" she asked, her tone dropping low, urgent. "Flight attendant Kyle," Maya said, matching Lisa's intensity. "Says a passenger in coach gave it to him. Big bald guy, no name. Happened 20 minutes ago." Lisa nodded, her eyes narrowing, as she glanced toward the curtain, then back to Maya. "This isn't okay," she said, her voice a quiet growl. Not on my plane. I'll look into it. She tucked the note into her pocket, her fingers brushing the fabric, and straightened up. Stay put. I'll talk to the crew, see if we can ID this clown. We're 2 hours from Seattle, but I'm not letting this slide. Maya nodded, her throat tight, grateful for the captain's resolve but acutely aware of the limits. Mid-flight, 35,000 feet up, options were slim. Lisa turned, her boots thudding softly as she headed back to the cockpit, leaving Maya alone with her racing thoughts. She leaned back, the seat's comfort mocking her now, and stared at the note's words burned into her mind. You'll pay for this, interloper. Pay for what? Standing up to Evelyn? Claiming her seat? Being a black woman who dared to belong where others thought she didn't? Her fingers drummed the armrest, a restless beat as she pieced it together. Evelyn's glare at the gate, that whispered threat. Now this. A note slipped through the cracks of a sealed plane. It wasn't coincidence. It was coordination, a jab from someone who knew exactly who she was, or at least what she represented. But who? A passenger acting solo, fueled by gate gossip? Or a cog in a machine Evelyn had cranked up before takeoff? Maya's eyes darted to the curtain separating first class from coach, a flimsy barrier that hid a sea of faces she couldn't see. The big bald guy could be anyone, a hulking shadow with a grudge watching her even now. Her skin prickled, a chill that had nothing to do with the cabin's 68-degree air. She'd faced threats before, anonymous emails, snide comments at shareholder meetings, but this was different, visceral, immediate. She was trapped, a metal tube hurtling through the sky, no exit, no backup, just her and an enemy she couldn't name. The businessman coughed, flipping a page, and the sound jolted her, her nerves raw. She forced a breath, slow and deep, willing her pulse to steady. She wasn't helpless, never had been, but the plane felt smaller now, a cage with teeth. Lisa's promise hung in the air, a lifeline, but Maya knew the truth. 2 hours to Seattle, no way to search a packed cabin without sparking chaos, no cameras in coach to catch the culprit. The best Lisa could do was question Kyle, maybe eyeball a few passengers, but mid-flight, justice was a long shot. Maya's mind spun, replaying Evelyn's face the way she'd whispered to that coworker, the venom in her stance. Was this her doing, a parting gift wired into the flight? Or had Maya's win at the gate lit a fuse she couldn't see, one that stretched beyond Evelyn to something uglier, deeper? She clutched her phone, tempted to text Tara, but airplane mode locked her in silence, a prisoner to her own questions. The note lay crumpled on her tray, a tiny bomb that had already detonated in her head. She wouldn't sleep, wouldn't work, wouldn't relax, not with this hanging over her. The cabin lights dimmed, a soft amber glow settling in, but Maya's world was anything but calm. She'd won at the gate, forced Evelyn to bend, but this was the counterpunch, a signal that her fight was far from over. The plane droned, on, cutting through the clouds, and Maya sat rigid, her victory unraveling thread by thread. A woman alone in a sky full of shadows. The Boeing 737 touched down in Seattle with a jolt, the wheels screeching against the rain-slicked runway of SeaTac Airport, pulling Maya Jackson out of the tense fog she'd been trapped in for 2 hours. Horizon Flight 472 taxied to the gate, the cabin lights flickering back to full brightness, but the note's words, "You'll pay for this, interloper," still burned behind her eyes, a branding iron pressed into her thoughts. She'd spent the flight rigid in 1C, her fingers tracing the armrest's seams, her mind dissecting every passenger's shadow beyond the curtain. Captain Lisa Monroe had returned once, her face grim, muttering that Kyle couldn't pin down. The bald guy in coach, too many heads, too little time. Maya had nodded, her throat dry, knowing the sky offered no answers, only questions that grew claws with every passing mile. Now, as the jet bridge locked into place, she stood, her tote slung over her shoulder, her blazer creased from the hours of sitting still. The first-class cabin emptied fast, the businessman brushing past with his paper tucked under his arm, the champagne lady trailing a cloud of floral perfume. Maya moved last, her steps deliberate, her eyes scanning the faces ahead as she stepped into the terminal. SeaTac buzzed with late-evening energy, travelers hauling bags under the glare of fluorescent lights, the air thick with the tang of wet coats and coffee. She needed to get to baggage claim, then her hotel, a sanctuary where she could call Tara and unravel this mess. But the note clung to her, a weight in her pocket, and that shiver from 35,000 feet hadn't left her spine. She reached baggage claim, a sprawling hall of spinning carousels and tired voices, the crowd thinning as flights trickled in. Her suitcase, a sleek black roller with a red tag, was due any minute, and she positioned herself near Carousel 3, her back to a pillar for a clear view of the room. Rain streaked the windows outside, blurring the night into a smear of gray, and she rubbed her neck, the tension knotted tight. Then she saw them, two figures cutting through the stragglers, their bulk unmistakable even in the dim light. Airport. Security guards, badges glinting, their navy uniforms stretched over broad shoulders, moved straight for her, their boots thudding a steady beat. The taller one, Hank, had a buzz cut and a jaw like a bulldog, his eyes locked on her with cold intent. The shorter, Riley, sported a patchy beard and a smirk that twisted his face into something predatory. Maya straightened, her pulse spiking, but she kept her expression blank, a mask she'd worn through 1,000 battles. They stopped 3 feet away, close enough for her to smell the stale coffee on their breath, and Hank spoke first, his voice a gravelly drawl. "Maya Jackson?" She nodded, her chin lifting slightly, and he crossed his arms, his biceps straining the fabric. "We've got a report you assaulted a gate agent in Phoenix. You're coming with us." The words landed like a brick through glass, shattering the fragile calm she'd clung to since landing. Assaulted? Her mind flashed to Evelyn, that venomous glare at Gate B7, the whispered threat as she'd boarded. This was no coincidence. It was a counterstrike, swift and brutal, aimed to knock her down before she could catch her breath. "Assaulted who?" she asked, her voice steady, cutting through the hum of the baggage hall. "I've been on a plane for 3 hours. Check the manifest." Hank's smirk widened, a glint of triumph in his eyes, and he stepped closer, his Iwa shadow swallowing hers. "Gate agent in Phoenix says you shoved her, got physical when she wouldn't let you board. We've got witnesses." Riley chimed in, his tone mocking. "Yeah, lady, you're in deep now." Maya's stomach churned, rage and disbelief colliding, but she held her ground, her toed a lifeline against her hip. "That's a lie," she said, pulling the crumpled note from her pocket and thrusting it toward them. "This came mid-flight, a threat from someone on board. I've got my boarding pass, proof I was in 1C, not fighting anyone. Call your supervisor." Hank barely glanced at the note, his thick fingers brushing it aside like trash, and sneered, "Nice story, but we don't buy fakes." Before she could react, Riley grabbed her arm, his grip iron tight, and Hank snapped cuffs around her wrists, the metal biting into her skin. Gasps rippled through the thinning crowd, travelers freezing mid-step, phones lifting to capture the scene. A woman in a raincoat whispered to her husband, "What did she do?" And a kid with a backpack pointed, wide-eyed. Maya's face burned, not from shame but from the sheer audacity of it, the public spectacle engineered to break her. She didn't resist, didn't give them the satisfaction, but her mind raced, piecing it together. Evelyn hadn't just whispered a threat, she'd weaponized it, turned a petty grudge into a criminal trap. They hauled her through the terminal, her heels clicking against the tiles, the cuffs chafing as they shoved her into a holding room near the security office. It was a stark box, gray walls, a single metal chair bolted to the floor, a buzzing fluorescent tube overhead casting harsh shadows. Hank uncuffed her, tossing her tote onto a table, and Riley leaned against the door, his smirk unwavering. "Sit tight," Hank growled. "We're sorting this out." They stepped out, the lock clicking shut, and Maya sank into the chair, her blazer creasing further, her dreadlocks brushing her shoulders as she tilted her head back. She rubbed her wrists, red marks blooming where the steel had pressed, and forced her breathing to slow, her anger a coiled spring she couldn't unleash yet. She pulled her phone from her tote, the battery at 12%, and saw a flood of notifications, missed calls from Tara, texts piling up. One caught her eye, a tweet from a stranger. "Saw a black woman cuffed at SeaTac baggage claim WTF Horizon." It had 40 retweets already, a spark in the dark. She dialed Tara, her fingers trembling slightly, and her assistant answered. Instantly, her voice a mix of panic and fury. "Maya, where are you? Twitter's blowing up. Someone posted about security grabbing you." Maya kept it tight, her words clipped. "Holding room at SeaTac. They're saying I assaulted a gate agent in Phoenix. It's Evelyn Tara. She's behind this. Get Horizon's legal team on it now." Tara's gasp crackled through the speaker. "That's insane. I'm on it. Stay put." Minutes dragged into an hour, the room's silence broken only by the hum of the light and the faint clatter of the terminal beyond. Maya paced, 3 steps one way, 3 back, her mind a storm of strategy. She'd won at the gate, forced Evelyn to bend, but this was the payback. A sucker punch that turned her victory into a handcuffed nightmare. The door finally swung open, Hank stepping in alone, his bulldog jaw set, but his eyes flickered with something new, unease maybe. "You're clear," he muttered, tossing her tote back. "No evidence, just a mix-up. Get out." Maya grabbed her bag, her voice ice cold. "A mix-up doesn't cuff me in public. Who called this in?" Hank shrugged, his shoulders hunching. "Came from Phoenix, that's all I know." She stepped into the terminal, the air cooler now, the crowd gone save for a few stragglers. Her suitcase sat abandoned by Carousel 3, and she retrieved it, her fingers tight around the handle. She'd beaten this, forced their hand again, but as she headed for the exit, her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number lighting up the screen. "Next time you won't walk away." Her breath stopped, her eyes darting to the shadows beyond the glass doors. The note on the plane, now this, a 1-2 punch that said her enemies weren't done. She'd escaped the cuffs, but the trap was tightening, and Seattle's rain-soaked night felt like a battlefield she hadn't signed up for. Maya pushed through the doors, the drizzle kissing her face, and flagged a cab, her blazer dampening as she slid inside. The driver, a grizzled man with a Seahawks cap, glanced at her in the rear view. "Rough night?" he asked, his voice gruff, but kind. She nodded, her throat too tight to answer, and gave him the hotel address. The cab pulled away, tires hissing on wet asphalt, and she leaned back, the city's lights blurring past. Tara's call had saved her, Horizon's legal muscle flexing just enough to spring her loose. But that text was a promise, a vow that this wasn't over. Evelyn's reach stretched beyond Phoenix, beyond the gate, and Maya's victory, twice, one, felt like a hollow shell. She'd fought her way off the plane, out of cuffs, but the real blow was coming, and she didn't know from where. Maya Jackson stormed into her Seattle hotel room, the door slamming shut behind her with a thud that echoed off the beige walls, her suitcase skidding across the carpet as she dropped it without a glance. The cab ride from SeaTac had been a blur of rain-streaked windows and the driver's low chatter, but that text, "Next time you won't walk away," pulsed in her veins like a second heartbeat. She tossed her damp blazer onto the bed, the fabric crumpling into a dark heap, and kicked off her heels, her bare feet sinking into the plush rug. The room smelled of lavender and stale air, a sterile sanctuary that felt anything but safe after. The cuffs, the note, the relentless drumbeat of retaliation. She needed answers, not rest, and she wasn't waiting for dawn to get them. Her phone, down to 8% battery, buzzed as she plugged it into the charger by the nightstand, the screen lighting up with Tara Brooks's name. Maya answered, her voice tight, a coil of fury barely leashed. "Tara, tell me you've got something." Her assistant's response came fast, sharp with urgency. "Maya, I've been digging since you called from SeaTac. You're not gonna believe this. I hacked into Horizon's internal system, passenger profiles, the works. Evelyn's supervisor, Paul Kendrick, flagged you as disruptive after takeoff. Manual override, no justification logged." Maya's breath hitched, her fingers gripping the phone until her knuckles ached. Paul Kendrick, a name she knew too well, a regional manager she'd crossed paths with at shareholder meetings, his balding head and pinched sneer a fixture in her memory. "Paul?" she said, her mind racing. "He's behind this?" Tara's voice dropped, a conspiratorial edge cutting through. "Oh, it gets worse. I cross-checked his file. He's got a rap sheet of complaints, all swept under the rug, mostly from passengers of color. Guy's a walking red flag. Hates anyone who doesn't fit his little white picket world. And get this, he's tight with a clique inside Horizon. Old school types who've been grumbling about outsiders like you ever since you bought in big. Maya paced the room, 3 steps to the window, 3 back, the Seattle skyline a smear of lights through the drizzle. Paul Kendrick wasn't just a petty bigot, he was a power player, a gatekeeper with strings to pull, and he'd seen her as a threat from day one. Her investment had shifted Horizon's boardroom, a black woman with millions in play, and Paul's kind didn't take kindly to that kind of change. She stopped, her reflection staring back from the rain-spotted glass, her dreadlocks loose now, framing her face like a crown. "He flagged me after takeoff," she said, piecing it together. "That's why security jumped me at baggage claim. Evelyn's his pawn, but he's the one swinging." Tara hummed agreement, her keyboard clacking in the background. "Exactly. The assault charge was bogus, but that flag gave it teeth. Legal got you out, but Paul's not done. He's got reach, Maya, and he's pissed you one at the gate." Maya's jaw tightened, her mind flashing to Evelyn's whispered threat. The note mid-flight, the cuff snapping shut. This wasn't just retaliation, it was a campaign. A corporate hit job dressed up as airport drama. She needed muscle, not just Tara's tech wizardry. She opened her contacts, scrolling to Derek Voss, Horizon's COO, and one of the few execs she trusted, a wiry ex-lawyer who'd backed her merger push from the start. It was 10:30 Pacific time, but Derek answered on the second ring, his voice groggy but alert. "Maya, you okay? Heard about SeaTac, what the hell's going on?" She didn't waste breath on pleasantries, her words a rapid-fire volley. "Derek, Paul Kendrick's trying to bury me. Flagged me as disruptive, fed a fake assault charge to security. Evelyn's his front, but he's the brains. I need you to shut him down now." Derek's silence stretched a beat, then he cursed. Under his breath, a low, sharp sound. "Paul? That sleaze. I'll pull his access, suspend him pending review. Give me an hour, I'll call you back." Maya hung up, her pulse a steady thrum, and sank onto the bed, her hands braced on her knees. She'd moved fast, struck hard, and Derek's clout could clip Paul's wings. The room's quiet pressed in, the hum of the heater a faint underscore to her thoughts. She'd won again, turned the tables on a man who thought he could erase her with a keystroke. Tara texted, "Paul's locked out, Derek's orders. You're clear." Maya let out a slow breath, her shoulders easing, the knot in her gut loosening. She'd dodged the bullet, exposed the snake, and with Paul sidelined, she could focus on the merger, get back to the game she played best. Or so she thought. She stood, crossing to the bathroom to splash water on her face, the cold shock grounding her. She grabbed a towel, patting her skin dry, and stepped back into the room, her bare feet silent on the carpet. Then she saw it, the door ajar, a sliver of hallway light slicing through. Her heart slammed against her ribs, her tote still on the bed, her phone plugged in, untouched. She hadn't left it open, hadn't heard a sound over the heater's drone. She edged closer, her breath shallow, and pushed the door wide, the hinges creaking softly. The room was a wreck, pillows slashed, the desk chair toppled, her suitcase gaping open with clothes spilling out like guts. Scrawled across the mirror in dripping red paint were words that turned her blood to ice. "Go back where you came from." She stumbled back, her hip crashing into the nightstand, the lamp wobbling but not falling. Her phone buzzed, Derek's name flashing, and she snatched it up, her voice a rasp. "Derek, someone trashed my room, painted a threat on the mirror. This isn't over." His reply came fast, laced with shock. "What?" "I just suspended Paul, he's got no access. Stay there, I'm sending security, calling the cops." Maya nodded, though he couldn't see, her eyes locked on the jagged letters, the paint still wet, streaking down the glass. She'd thought Paul was the head of the snake, but this was a body blow, a physical strike that said his reach went deeper, darker than she'd guessed. She backed to the bed, sinking onto the edge, her blazer crumpled beside her. The room's lavender scent now sour with fear. The note on the plane, the cuffs at SeaTac. Now this, a break-in that screamed vengeance. Paul's suspension hadn't stopped it. hadn't slowed the machine he'd set in motion. She'd won at the gate, dodged the arrest, exposed his flag, but each victory pulled her deeper into a war she hadn't started. Her hotel, her supposed safe haven, was a battleground now, breached in minutes, her power mocked in red paint. She heard footsteps in the hall, heavy and fast, hotel security bursting in, their radios crackling, but her mind was elsewhere, spinning through the shadows. Paul Kendrick wasn't just a bigot with a grudge, he was a cog in something uglier, a clique that loathed her for more than her seat, her skin, her success. They hated what she represented, a black woman who'd bought their world and bent it to her will. She'd thought she could outmaneuver them, lean on Derek, cut Paul off at the knees. But this wasn't a chess game anymore. It was a street fight. And they were swinging knives. The security guards swept the room, their voices a blur, and Maya sat still, her hands clenched, her resolve hardening. She'd survived the night, but the morning would bring blood, and she wasn't sure whose. Okay, let's talk about this. Insanity real quick. Can you believe Paul's pulling strings like this, turning a gate spat into a full-on attack? Comment number 1 if you're raging at how deep this racism runs, or number 2 if you think Maya should have seen this coming from a guy like him. If you're hooked on watching her fight these corporate creeps, smash that like button and subscribe to catch every twist. She's dodging punches left and right, but that break-in's a game changer. So what's your gut telling you? Will Maya's next move crush Paul's crew, or is she about to get hit with something she can't dodge? Maya Jackson stood in the wreckage of her Seattle hotel room, the red paint's acrid stench stinging her nose as hotel security swept through, their boots crunching over shredded pillows and scattered papers. The mirror's message, "Go back. Where you came from," dripped like blood, a taunt that echoed the note from the plane, the cuffs at SeaTac, a chorus of hate growing louder with every move she made. Her blazer lay crumpled on the bed, her suitcase a gutted shell, but she didn't flinch, her dreadlocks framing a face carved from resolve. The guards muttered into their radios, their voices a low hum, and outside, sirens wailed, Seattle PD closing in. She'd called Derek Voss, Horizon's COO, minutes ago, and his promise of cops and backup was her lifeline. But the break-in had shifted something inside her, a spark igniting into a blaze. She wasn't waiting for Paul Kendrick's next punch. She was hitting back. Her phone, now at 5%, buzzed with a text from Tara Brooks. "Cops en route, stay sharp." Maya nodded to herself, pocketing the device, and stepped into the hall as 2 officers arrived, their uniforms damp from the drizzle, flashlights slicing through the dim light. The taller one, Officer Chen, a wiry man with a buzz cut, took her statement, his pen scratching fast as she laid it out. The gate fight, the note, the arrest. Now this. His partner, a stocky woman named Ortiz, photographed the room, her camera's flash bouncing off the mirror's crimson scrawl. "We'll dust for prints," Chen said, his voice clipped but steady. "But this looks personal. Any enemies at Horizon?" Maya's lips pressed thin, Paul's name on her tongue, but she held it, saying only, "Plenty. Start with the gate agent, Evelyn Pierce." Chen nodded, jotting it down, and they cleared out, leaving her with a promise of updates and a room she couldn't sleep in. She checked into a new suite 3 floors up, the staff stammering apologies, their faces pale with nerves. The fresh space was sterile, white linens crisp, the view a gray smear of Puget Sound, but safety felt like a lie now. Maya dropped her tote on the desk, her fingers trembling as she plugged in her phone and opened Twitter, her thumbs flying. She typed fast, her words a Molotov cocktail lobbed into the digital void. "Horizon Airways let a gate agent deny my seat, fake an assault charge, and now my hotel room's trashed with hate. This is systemic. I'm their top investor and they're coming for me. Justice for Maya, Horizon exposed." She attached a photo of the mirror, the red paint stark against the glass, and hit send, her breath catching as the post went live. Within minutes, it exploded. 50,000 retweets in under an hour, a wildfire tearing through the platform. Hashtags trended. Justice for Maya, climbing to number 3 nationwide. Horizon exposed, not far behind. Comments flooded in, a tidal wave of outrage and support. "This is disgusting, sue them." And "Black women can't even fly in peace, Horizon's done." News outlets picked it up, CNN flashing her tweet on a breaking news ticker, MSNBC, calling it a corporate scandal unfolding in real time. Horizon's stock dipped 2 points by midnight, a quiet panic rippling through Wall Street's after-hours chatter. Maya watched it unfold, her chest tight, her victory at the gate, a distant memory swallowed by this public war. She'd gone loud, turned the spotlight on Paul's click, and for a moment, she felt the power shift, the world tilting in her favor. But Paul Kendrick wasn't one to sit quiet. By morning, a tabloid site, Sky High Gossip, dropped a bombshell. A grainy video headlined, "Horizon Investor Caught in Gate Rage Meltdown." It showed Maya at Gate B7, her voice dubbed over with a shrill, "Give me my seat or I'll make you pay," spliced with footage of her shoving Evelyn, the gate agent, stumbling back in fake distress. The audio was a clumsy forgery, the visuals stitched from security cams and bad edits, but it spread like poison, racking up 1 million views by noon. Twitter split, half screaming, "She's a liar," and "entitled fraud," while the other half doubled down, "This is edited garbage." Stand with Maya. Maya stared at her phone, her new room's silence deafening, the betrayal a knife in her ribs. Paul had struck back, turned her stand into a smear, and the world was eating it. Up. She called Tara, her voice a low growl as she paced the suite, the carpet wearing thin under her bare feet. "Find out where that video came from now. It's fake, and Paul's behind it." Tara's response was instant, her fury matching Maya's. "Already on it. Give me 20 minutes, I'll trace the IP." Maya hung up, her mind a storm of angles, and dialed Derek Voss, catching him mid-meeting, his voice tense. "Maya, I saw the video. It's a mess out there. What's your play?" She didn't hesitate, her words steel. "It's Paul, Derek. He's leaking lies to bury me. Fire him, end this." Derek sighed, a heavy sound through the line. "I've got the board on my back, stock's tanking. I suspended him, but this, I'll terminate him now." "Evidence?" Maya snapped. "Tara's. Tracing it. You'll have it soon." 20 minutes later, Tara texted, "Got it. Videos from Paul's home IP, uploaded via a VPN he didn't mask well. Sending you the logs." Maya forwarded them to Derek, her fingers shaking with adrenaline, and within an hour he called back, his tone clipped but triumphant. "Paul's out. Fired. Effective immediately. No severance. Board's livid. They're backing you. You're clear." Maya exhaled, her shoulders slumping as she sank onto the bed, the fresh sheets cool against her skin. The video's tide turned, tech sleuths on Twitter tearing it apart. "Audio's off by 3 frames. Total fake." And Horizon's covering. Up. Justice for Maya. Her name trended again, the smear unraveling, Paul's gambit collapsing under its own weight. She'd flipped it, turned his knife back on him, and the world saw her truth. She stood, crossing to the window, the rain slowing to a mist over Seattle's skyline, and let herself breathe, a rare moment of relief washing through her. Paul was gone. His click's first domino toppled, and her public stand had lit a fire Horizon couldn't ignore. She'd won this round, forced their hand again, her investor clout and Tara's tech magic a 1-2 punch that broke Paul's spine. The merger meeting loomed tomorrow, and she could refocus, reclaim her rhythm. Or, so she thought. She turned back to the room, her tote on the desk, her phone charging, and stepped toward the bathroom for a shower, the day's grime clinging to her skin. Then she heard it. A sharp crack from the window, glass shattering inward as a brick crashed onto the carpet, rolling to a stop at her feet. Her heart slammed against her ribs, her body freezing as she stared at the jagged hole, rain spitting through the gap. Wrapped around the brick was a note, soaked but legible, the ink bleeding into the paper. "You're done, fraud." She stumbled back, her hip catching the desk, the lamp rattling, and grabbed her phone, dialing Derek as her pulse roared in her ears. "Derek, a brick just came through my window. Another threat. Paul's out, but his people aren't stopping." His voice cracked with shock. "What?" "I just fired him, Maya. This is insane. I'm sending security cops, everything. Stay put." She nodded, her eyes locked on the brick, the note's words a fresh wound, and sank to the floor, her back against the bed. The room spun, the victory she'd clawed back slipping through her fingers. Paul's firing hadn't killed the beast. It had enraged it, his clique lashing out with a fury that didn't care about rules or reason. She'd gone public, turned the tide, but this was the counterblow. A raw physical strike that said they'd burn her world down before they'd let her win. Security pounded on the door minutes later, their voices a blur as they stormed in, but Maya barely heard them, her mind racing. The gate, the note, the cuffs, the break-in, now this, a relentless chain of hate that wouldn't break. She'd thought she'd crushed Paul, thought Derek's axe would end it, but the brick at her feet was proof. This war was bigger, uglier, and she was still in its crosshairs. Maya Jackson sat on the edge of her hotel bed, the brick stamp note crumpled in her fist. The words, "You're done, fraud," seared into her mind as Seattle PD swept through her shattered suite. The jagged hole in the window let in a cold drizzle, the carpet sodden beneath it, and the air buzzed with the crackle of police radios, officers dusting the brick for prints that wouldn't be there. Her dreadlocks hung loose, brushing her shoulders, her blazer still crumpled from the night before, but her eyes were steel, fixed on the chaos she'd ignited. Paul Kendrick's firing had been a win, her viral tweet a hammer that cracked Horizon's facade, but the brick was proof his clique wouldn't bow. They'd escalate, and she was done playing defense. She stood, her bare feet sinking into the damp rug, and grabbed her phone, the battery now full after a night plugged in beside her sleepless vigil. Derek Voss had sent security, their heavy footsteps pacing the hall, but she needed more than guards. She needed a kill shot. She dialed her lawyer, Olivia Grant, a pit bull in a pinstripe suit who'd shredded bigger foes than Paul's crew. Olivia answered, her voice a crisp blade through the morning fog. "Maya, I saw Twitter, the brick, everything. You okay?" Maya's response was iron, her exhaustion fueling her fire. "I'm alive, but they're not stopping. I'm suing Horizon, Olivia. Negligence, defamation, harassment, the works. Paul's gone, but his people are still swinging. File it today." Olivia hummed, a sound of relish. "Consider it done. I'll have papers ready by noon. Federal court, Seattle district. They'll choke on this." Maya hung up, her pulse a steady drumbeat, and paced to the window. The rain, a soft hiss against the broken glass. She'd leaned on her investor clout, her 10% stake in Horizon a cudgel no one could ignore, and now she'd wield it like a sword. The merger meeting loomed in hours, but this lawsuit would hit first, a preemptive strike to cripple Paul's clique before they could reload. She showered fast, the hot water scalding away the night's grime, and dressed in a charcoal suit, sharp as a blade. Her dreadlocks swept back into a tight bun. Security escorted her to the federal courthouse, a gray monolith downtown, and by 1 p.m., Olivia had filed the complaint, a 50-page beast naming Horizon, Evelyn Pierce, and unknown conspirators tied to Paul. The news broke fast. Headlines, screaming, "Horizon investor sues airline over racist attacks," and Maya felt the ground shift, her power roaring back. The courtroom was a pressure cooker, the judge a stern woman with silver hair, her gavel a thunderclap as Olivia shredded Horizon's counsel. Maya sat ramrod straight, her hands clasped, as her lawyer laid out the gate denial, the fake assault, charge, the break-in, the brick, a timeline of hate backed by Tara's logs and police reports. Horizon's attorney, a sweaty man in a cheap tie, stammered excuses, system errors, rogue employees. But Olivia pounced, her voice a whip. "This isn't rogue, it's systemic. Their top investor, a black woman, targeted at every turn, and they did nothing." The judge's eyes narrowed, her pen scratching notes, and by day's end, she ruled, a settlement slammed down, $2 million and a public apology from Horizon's board, live on every network by 6 p.m. Maya walked out, the courthouse, steps slick with rain, her suit pristine despite the damp, and let herself smile, a rare crack in her armor. The apology aired, Derek Voss's voice steady as he read it. "Horizon Airways deeply regrets the treatment of Ms. Maya Jackson, our valued investor, and commits to rooting out bias." Twitter erupted. Justice for Maya trending at #1, the video debunked, Paul's name mud. She'd won, turned their smear into her triumph, her lawyer's blade cutting deeper than Paul's brick could bruise. She headed back to the hotel, The merger meeting set for morning, her victory a shield she'd carry into the boardroom. Or so she thought. She stepped into the lobby, the concierge nodding with newfound deference, and rode the elevator to her. New suite, the air crisp with fresh paint, no trace of the night's chaos. She kicked off her heels, her feet aching, and sank onto the couch, her phone buzzing with Tara's update. Settlements wired, horizons bleeding. You crushed it. Maya exhaled, her shoulders easing, the weight of the day lifting. She'd flipped the script, forced Horizon to kneel, and Paul's clique was reeling, their leader axed, their lies exposed. She could sleep, reset, take the merger by storm. Then her phone rang, an unknown Seattle number, and she answered, her voice wary. "Who's this?" A desk sergeant's gruff tone crackled through. "Ms. Jackson, Seattle PD. You're under arrest, bribery of a witness. Come down now, or we're coming for you." Her stomach dropped, the room tilting as she gripped the couch, her nails digging into the fabric. "Bribery? That's insane, I just won in court." The sergeant's reply was flat, unyielding. "Got an email. Says you paid off a Horizon employee to lie about Kendrick. Warrants out, move it." She hung up, her breath shallow, and called Tara, her voice a rasp. "Seattle PD's framing me. Bribery charge, some fake email. Dig into it, fast." Tara's gasp was audible, her fury rising. "They're relentless. I'm on it, Maya, hang tight." Minutes later, 2 cops banged on her door, their fists a drum roll, and she opened it, her suit still on, her dignity intact. They cuffed her, the steel colder than SeaTac, and marched her out, hotel staff gaping, a new spectacle unfolding. The precinct was a fluorescent hell, the holding cell a concrete box with a bench and a flickering light. Maya sat, her wrists raw, her mind racing as Tara worked from Chicago, tracing the email. An hour in, her phone buzzed through the guard's hands. Derek on the line, his voice tight with panic. "Maya, I heard. This is nuts. I'm pulling every string, CEOs. On it too." She snarled, her patience gone. "Find the cop tied to Paul, Derek, that's the link. Get me out." He promised, hung up, and Tara texted 30 minutes later. Emails from a burner, but the IP's a Phoenix precinct. Cop's name's Daniels, Paul's old buddy, sending it to Derek. Maya's jaw clenched, her anger a live wire. Paul's, click striking from the shadows, framing her with a lie so bold it could have been ripped from a bad movie. Derek moved fast, his CEO cloud a battering ram, and by midnight the precinct doors swung open, a sheepish sergeant uncuffing her, muttering, "Evidence doesn't hold, you're free." She stepped into the night. The rain stopped, the air sharp with salt from the sound. Tara's proof had blown the frame up apart, Daniels exposed, Paul's fingerprints all over it. She'd dodged another bullet, her team's speed her salvation. But as she hailed a cab, a black sedan screeched past, its bumper clipping her suitcase, the driver's face a blur before it vanished into the dark. She stumbled, her heart pounding, the near miss a scream in the silence. The cab pulled up, the driver wide-eyed. "You okay, lady?" She nodded, sliding in, her suit creased, her resolve iron. The ride back was a haze, the city's lights streaking past, her mind a battlefield. She'd won the lawsuit, forced Horizon's apology, but Paul's crew didn't care. They'd turned legal traps into death threats, their hate a machine that wouldn't stop. The cuffs were off, Daniels's frame-up dead, but that sedan was a promise, a vow that her victories meant nothing to them. She'd thought the settlement was checkmate, thought Derek's pull would end it. But this was chess with no board, just fists and blood. The hotel loomed ahead, its lights a beacon, and she stepped out, her suitcase battered, her spirit bruised but unbroken. Paul's clique had hit harder, dirtier, and she wasn't sure how much fight she had left. Maya Jackson stepped back into her Seattle hotel suite, the door clicking shut with a hollow thud as the night's damp air clung to her charcoal suit, her battered suitcase thumping onto the carpet. The sedan's near miss still roared in her ears, its tires screeching a promise of death that drowned out the quiet hum of the room's heater. Her wrists ached from the precinct's cuffs, her victory in court a fading echo against Paul Kendrick's relentless counterattacks. The lawsuit's $2 million, and Horizon's apology now dust in the wind. She kicked off her heels, her bare feet curling into the rug, and dropped her tote on the desk, her dreadlocks loosening from their bun, spilling over her shoulders like a dark curtain. She'd won again and again, but each triumph dragged her deeper into a war she couldn't map, and that sedan was a line crossed, a blade aimed at her throat. She sank onto the couch, her phone buzzing with Tara Brooks' update. "Daniels is suspended, cops scrambling. You're clear." Maya nodded to the screen, her jaw tight. But clear meant nothing when Paul's click kept swinging. Their hate a hydra sprouting new heads with everyone she cut off. The merger meeting was hours away, a chance to reclaim her footing. But she needed to know how deep this rot went. Who else was pulling strings? She opened her laptop, the screen's blue glow bathing her face, and dug into Horizon's internal files. Tara's backdoor access, a key she'd wielded since the gate fight. She cross-referenced Paul's allies, names she'd glimpsed in shareholder reports, and froze when one hit like a punch. Carla Hayes, Horizon's VP of Operations, her friend for 15 years, a woman who'd toasted her rise with champagne and late-night strategy sessions. Maya's breath caught, her fingers hovering over the keys as she pulled Carla's records, emails, call logs, a trail of digital breadcrumbs Tara had flagged but not yet chased. There it was, a thread to Paul, encrypted but sloppy, dated the day of the gate incident. "She's pushing too hard, handle it." Another post-firing, "Keep her down, I've got dirt." Maya's stomach twisted, a sick lurch that wasn't just shock, but betrayal, raw and jagged, cutting deeper than the brick or the sedan. Carla, her confidant, the one who'd sworn to have her back, had fed Paul the ammo, turned her trust into a weapon. She slammed the laptop shut, her hands shaking, and stood, pacing the room, 3 steps to the window, 3 back, the Seattle skyline a blur through her rage. She grabbed her phone, dialing Carla, her voice a low growl when the VP answered, her tone too smooth, too casual. "Maya, you okay?" "Heard about the precinct, insane." Maya didn't play, her words a blade. "Cut the act, Carla. I've got your emails to Paul, handle it. Keep her down. You sold me out." Silence stretched, thick and heavy. Then Carla sighed, a sound of defeat laced with venom. "You don't get it, Maya. Paul had me by the throat. A scandal from 10 years back. Tax fraud he dug up. I had to, or he'd ruin me." Maya's grip tightened, her knuckles paling. "You could have come to me. We'd have crushed him together. Instead, you stabbed me in the back." Carla's voice hardened, a crack in her mask. "You're too big now, Maya, too loud. I couldn't risk it." Maya hung up, her breath ragged, and stormed to the desk, slamming her fist down, the lamp wobbling. She'd trusted Carla, shared secrets, built Horizon's future with her, and now this, a knife twisted by a friend turned foe. She called Derek Voss, her voice ice as he picked up mid-yawn, dawn breaking outside. "Derek, Carla Hayes is Paul's mole, fed him intel to sink me. Get her out now." Derek cursed, his shock real. "Carla? Damn it, Maya, I'm on it. Board meetings in 2 hours, I'll push her resignation through." By 7 a.m. he texted, "She's gone, confessed under pressure, resignation signed. You're safe." Maya exhaled, her chest loosening, the betrayal purged, her control snapping back into place. She stood, her suit creased but her spirit steel, ready to face the merger. Paul's click gutted with Carla's fall. She'd flipped it again, turned a traitor's knife into her own, and Horizon's board would bow to her now, her clout undeniable. She grabbed her tote, her phone, and headed for the door, the morning light filtering through the blinds, a new day to dominate. Then the windows rattled, a roar from below, and she spun, her heart slamming as she saw them, a mob surging outside, 50 strong, their voices a guttural chant. "Get out, fraud!" They waved signs, "No place for liars," and hurled rocks, one smashing the glass beside her, shards raining down as she ducked, her arm shielding her face. She stumbled back, her tote crashing to the floor, her phone skittering across the carpet as the mob's roar grew, a wave of hate crashing through the morning calm. Security burst in, their shouts drowned by the chaos, dragging her to the hall as glass shattered behind her. "Paul's people," one guard barked, his grip tight on her arm. Hired muscle. Staged this. Cops swarmed below, batons flashing. But the lead officer, a burly man with a scar across his cheek, pulled her aside, his breath hot on her face as he whispered, "You should have stayed down," his eyes glinting with Paul's malice. Maya's blood ran cold, her mind racing. Carla's ouster a spark that lit this fuse. Paul's clique unleashing a riot to break her. They hustled her to a back exit, the mob's chants fading as sirens wailed. But that officer's words echoed, a promise of deeper rot, Paul's reach coiling into law enforcement itself. She'd thought Carla was the last domino, thought Derek's axe had cleared the board, but this was a new beast, a public assault that turned her hotel into a war zone. Her suit was torn at the elbow, her dreadlocks tangled with glass dust. But she stood tall, her breath steadying as security flanked her, the cops dispersing the crowd. Paul's clique didn't care about her wins, her clout, her truth. They'd burn Seattle down to bury her, and that officer's smirk was proof they had badges on their side. She climbed into a waiting car, the driver peeling out. The hotel, shrinking in the rearview as her phone buzzed, Tara's voice frantic. "Maya, you okay?" Twitter's exploding, mobs all over it. Maya's reply was steel, her resolve unbreakable. "I'm alive, Tara. They're desperate, that's all this is. Dig into that cop, find his link to Paul." The line crackled. With Tara's determination, on it, and Maya leaned back, the city blurring past, her merger delayed, her world a battlefield. She'd ousted Carla, won the lawsuit, but Paul's crew struck harder. Their hate a tidal wave she couldn't outrun, not yet. All right, let's unpack this wild turn real quick. Can you believe Carla flipped on Maya like that, trading loyalty for Paul's blackmail? Drop a comment with number 1 if you're stunned a friend could stab her in the back, or number 2 if you saw it coming from a corporate snake like Carla. If you're rooting for Maya to keep crushing these traitors and bigots, hit that like button and subscribe to catch every blow she lands next. She's dodging mobs and dirty cops now, but she's not breaking. So, what's your call? Will Maya turn this riot into her next win, or is Paul's crew about to drop a bomb she can't survive? Maya Jackson gripped the armrest of the hotel's security car, her knuckles tight against her skin as the vehicle sped through Seattle's rain-slicked streets, the mob's chants fading into the hum of the engine. Glass dust clung to her dreadlocks, her torn suit a testament to the riot that had shattered her suite. Paul Kendrick's clique turning betrayal into a public siege. The scarred cop's whisper, "You should have stayed down," looped in her skull, a venomous thread tying Carla's treachery to a deeper rot she couldn't yet name. Her phone buzzed relentlessly in her lap, Tara Brooks's texts piling up. "Mobs on CNN, you're trending." But Maya's focus was razor sharp, her merger meeting scrapped, her world a battlefield where survival trumped strategy. The car screeched to a stop outside a nondescript safe house, a squat brick building tucked behind a row of pines, its windows dark, its silence a stark contrast to the hotel's chaos. Security hustled her inside, their boots thudding on the hardwood, and she dropped her battered suitcase by the door, her tote slung over her shoulder like a shield. The room smelled of dust and pine, a bare-bones setup with a couch, a table, and a TV flickering on mute. CNN's ticker already screaming, Horizon investor attacked by mob in Seattle. She sank onto the couch, her suit creased, her body aching, and flipped the sound on, her own face staring back from the screen. A photo from last year's shareholder gala, poised and powerful, now captioned with, "Target of Hate." The story broke wide, MSNBC cutting in with aerial shots of the mob, 50 bodies waving signs, "Fraud out," rocks arcing through the air. Twitter lit up. Justice for Maya surging to number 1, a million voices roaring, "This is systemic racism, Horizon's complicit." While counter hashtags, Maya lies, clawed for traction, fueled by Paul's lingering smear. Protests erupted. Outside Horizon hubs, LAX, O'Hare, JFK, travelers chanting her name, shutting down gates with sit-ins, the airline stock plunging 5 points by noon. Derek Voss called, his voice ragged. "Maya, this is everywhere, board's freaking out. I've suspended 20 tied to Paul's crew, we're cleaning house." She nodded, her throat dry. "Good, but it's not enough. They're still coming." Derek's sigh crackled through. "I know. I'm pushing reforms. Stay low." She stood, pacing the safe house's tight space, her bare feet silent on the wood. The TV's drone a backdrop to her racing thoughts. She'd won the gate, the lawsuit, ousted Carla. But Paul's clique didn't care. Their hate a wildfire she couldn't douse. The spotlight was hers now, a national stage, and she'd use it, turn their chaos into her weapon. She texted Tara, "Leak Paul's ties to the mob, every shred you've got," and her assistant's reply was instant. "Done, hitting news desks now." By afternoon, outlets ran it. Fired Horizon manager linked to Seattle riot. Tara's dig exposing payments from Paul's account to a local thug crew, the dots connecting in real time. Maya's name became a rallying cry. Black women tweeting, "She's us fighting the system." Protest signs popping up. Maya stands, we rise. Horizon's board called an emergency presser, Derek front and center, his wiry frame dwarfed by the podium as he vowed, "We're purging every trace of bias, starting with Paul's network." She watched, her chest tight, a fleeting sense of triumph as the world bent to her truth. She'd flipped it again, turned their mob into her megaphone, and Paul's clique was crumbling, 20 heads rolling, the nation's eyes on her fight. She sank back onto the couch, her breath easing, thinking she'd turned the tide, her safe house a fortress she could hold. Then the window exploded, a sniper's bullet ripping through, grazing her shoulder as she dove, blood blooming on her sleeve. The crack of gunfire shattering the quiet. She hit the floor, her arms screaming, the TV blaring as security stormed in, their shouts a blur. "Shooter on the roof!" Her tote spilled, her phone skittering, and she pressed her hand to the wound, warm and wet, her suit soaking red. The bullet had missed her heart by inches, a precision strike that said Paul's crew wasn't done. They'd kill before they'd kneel. Security dragged her to a back room, their radios crackling. "Perimeter breached, suspect fleeing." And Tara called, her voice frantic. "Maya, you hit? I saw it live, CNN cut to it." Maya rasped. "Shoulder, I'm alive. Trace the shooter, Tara, it's Paul." Tara's fury roared through. "Got it, digging now." Minutes bled into hours, medics patching her up, a gauze wrap tight around. Her arm as cops swept the scene, the safe house a war zone of splintered wood and shattered glass. Tara texted, "Shooter's a hired gun, militia type, bank records tie him to Paul's slush fund, FBI's on it." Maya's jaw clenched, her pain a dull throb, Paul's desperation bared, his clique turning to murder to silence her. Derek called, his voice breaking. "Maya, this is insane, board's begging you to lead a task force, fix this from the top. We're hemorrhaging, protests everywhere." She nodded, her resolve iron. "I'll do it, but they're not stopping, Derek," he stammered. "We'll protect you, I swear," and hung up, leaving her in the medic's glow, her blood staining the floor. She stood, wincing as her arm protested, and paced to the back window, the pines swaying in the wind, Seattle's gray sky a shroud. She'd agreed, her cloud a battering ram to reshape Horizon, Paul's crew on the ropes, the nation watching. She turned their sniper into her spotlight, the grays a badge of survival, and she'd lead, force change, end this nightmare, or so she thought. She turned back, her phone buzzing with a news alert. Horizon investor's car explodes in driveway. A live feed cutting to her hotel, flames licking the night, her rental sedan a fireball 30 feet high, the blast rocking the block as cops cordoned it off. Her knees buckled, her good hand catching the wall, her breath a ragged gasp as the medic rushed over. "Ma'am, sit." She waved him off, her eyes locked on the screen, the fire's roar a mirror to her pulse. Paul's clique had struck again, minutes after the sniper, their hate a bomb that turned her escape into ash. She dodged death twice in an hour, her shoulder bleeding, her car a crater, and the safe house felt like a coffin now, its walls closing in. Security tightened, their voices sharp. "We're moving you now." But Maya barely heard, her mind spinning. The lawsuit, Carla's fall, the mob, now this. A relentless chain of violence that laughed at her wins, Paul's crew a machine of chaos she couldn't break. They hustled her to a new car, the medic beside her, her arm throbbing as the city blurred past, the explosion's heat still on her skin. She'd thought the spotlight was her shield. thought Derek's purge would stop them, but Paul's slush fund had bought killers, not just thugs, and they'd burn her world down before they'd let her rise. Her phone buzzed, Tara's voice a lifeline. FBI's raiding Paul's accounts, Maya. They've got the militia link. You're safe soon. Maya's reply was steel. Not yet, Tara. They're not done. The car sped on, the safe house, lost to the night. Her victories hollow, her enemies a shadow she couldn't shake. Hold up, this is getting wild, right? Maya's turning a sniper shot into a war cry, but that car bomb's a whole new level of crazy. Can you imagine the guts it takes to keep fighting after that? Comment number 1 if you're blown away by her grit, or number 2 if you think she's pushing too hard against a wall that won't crack. If you're all in for watching her take down these murderous clowns, smash that like button and subscribe to catch the next insane twist. She's bleeding, her car's toast, but she's not out. So, what's your hunch? Can Maya turn this double whammy into her knockout punch, or is Paul's crew about to drop a final blow she can't dodge? Maya Jackson crouched in the backseat of a black SUV, her shoulder throbbing beneath the gauze as the vehicle tore through Seattle's backstreets. The city's lights a fleeting smear beyond the tinted windows. The safe house was a memory, its shattered window and the car bomb's fireball etched into her skull. Paul Kendrick's clique turning her victories into ash with sniper shots and explosives. Her torn suit hung loose, her dreadlocks matted with sweat and glass dust. But her eyes burned, a fire stoked by every blow they'd landed. Tara Brooks sat beside her, laptop balanced on her knees, her fingers flying across the keys. A lifeline in the chaos as security flanked them, their radios crackling with updates. FBI's moving, perimeter secure. Maya's tote lay spilled. At her feet, her phone buzzing with Derek Voss's last call. We're relocating you. Stay alive. The SUV pulled into an industrial alley, a shadowed stretch of crumbling warehouses and rusted chain link, stopping at an unmarked garage that groaned open, swallowing them whole. Inside, the air was thick with oil and damp concrete, a bare bulb swinging overhead as security hustled her out, Tara trailing with her tech arsenal. The new safe house was a bunker, steel walls, no windows, a cot and a table its only furniture. A fortress carved from desperation. Maya sank onto the cot, her good hand pressing her wound, the pain a dull roar she ignored. Tara set up shop, her laptop's glow casting sharp angles on her face, and muttered, FBI's raiding Paul's accounts, but we need more, Maya. They're not stopping. Maya nodded, her voice low. Then we go deeper, Tara. Hack Horizon. Find the route. Tara cracked her knuckles, diving into Horizon's servers with a backdoor she'd built years ago, her screen a cascade of code as Maya paced, 3 steps one way, 3 back, the bunker's chill seeping through her socks. She'd won the gate, the lawsuit, ousted Carla, turned the spotlight, but Paul's crew kept coming, sniper rifles and bombs their answer to her every move. Tara's voice snapped her focus. Holy crap, Maya, look at this. The screen glowed. With a dossier, Paul's syndicate laid bare. A racist cabal spanning Horizon's ranks and beyond. Pilots, managers, even a board member, linked by encrypted chats and offshore accounts flush with 10 million in dirty cash. Names scrolled, faces she'd passed in hallways. A network that loathed her skin, her power, her existence. Maya's breath hitched, her good hand clenching. The wound's ache a distant hum against this revelation. That's the head, she said, her voice steel. Paul's just the fist. Leak it, Tara, all of it, to the FBI, CNN, everyone. Tara nodded, her fingers a blur, and within minutes the files hit. A digital bomb detonating across newsrooms. Horizon Airways infested with racist syndicate. Headlines screaming, as Tara's upload burned through the dark web, untraceable, unstoppable. Maya watched, her chest tight, the bunker's walls a shield as the world erupted, FBI agents storming Paul's Phoenix home, live feeds showing cuffs snapping on his wrists, 20 others dragged from offices and bars, their faces pale under flashing lights. She stood, her legs shaky but her spine straight, the TV on the table flickering with breaking news. Mass arrests at Horizon. Investor Maya Jackson's expose triggers federal raid. Twitter went nuclear. For justice for Maya at number 1. A million voices howling, she took them down, and Horizon's done, burn it. Protests swelled, airports grinding to a halt, the airline stock cratering 10 points by dusk. Derek called, his voice a mix of awe and panic. "Maya, you've gutted them. Paul's in custody, the board's in shambles. You're a hero." She rasped. "Not yet, Derek. They're not finished." Her eyes on the screen. Paul's sneer as he was shoved into a van, his empire crumbling under her hand. She'd flipped it, turned their bombs into her victory, the syndicate's roots ripped out by Tara's hack and her own iron will. The bunker felt solid now, a command center, not a cage. And she sank onto the cot, her shoulder pulsing, her breath easing. Paul was locked up, his cronies rounded up, the nation's fury her shield, Horizon's board begging her to lead them out of the ashes. She'd crush them, expose the beast, and the merger could wait. Her fight won at last, or so she thought. Tara's laptop pinged, a news alert cutting through the quiet, Horizon hero framed as terrorist. A shaky video airing live, Maya's face superimposed over the car bomb's flames, a fake voiceover claiming, "I did it for sympathy, to take Horizon down." Her heart stopped, her good hand slamming the cot as Tara spun, her eyes wide. "They've flipped it, Maya. Doctored footage. It's everywhere." The TV blared, pundits shouting, was she behind it all? As Twitter fractured, half screaming, "Lies," half turning, "She's a fraud." Maya's allies wavered, Derek texting, "Board spooked, what's this?" Her victory unraveling in seconds, Paul's remnant crew striking from the shadows. She stood, her wound flaring, and barked, "Trace it, Tara, now!" Tara dove back in, her screen a war zone. "It's from a burner server, Phoenix IP, Paul's last gasp, I'll kill it." But the damage spread, a poison seeping through her triumph, her name muddied again. Then the bunker shook, a SWAT team breaching the door, rifles up, their shouts deafening. "Maya Jackson, hands up, you're under arrest." She froze, her good arm rising, blood seeping through her gauze as Tara yelled, "This is fake, she's innocent." The lead agent, a hulking man with a buzz cut, snarled, "Video says otherwise, move." They cuffed her, the steel biting, her raw wrists, and dragged her out, the bunker's safety a lie, Tara's laptop abandoned on the table. The alley swarmed with lights, choppers thumping overhead, CNN cutting live. Horizon investor arrested in terror plot. The frame-up, a masterstroke, Paul's crew laughing from their cells. They shoved her into a van, the doors slamming, her suit torn, her shoulders screaming as the city blurred past, the SWAT team's radios buzzing with orders. She'd exposed the syndicate, locked Paul away, but this was their final blow, a lie so bold it turned her hero's crown into a terrorist's noose. Tara's voice echoed in her head, "I'll kill it." But the world was turning, her allies doubting, the protests faltering, Horizon's board pulling back. She sat, her breath steady, her mind racing, the cuffs a cold reminder of every fight. She'd won, only to face this, a trap she hadn't seen, a lie she couldn't outrun. The van rolled on, Seattle's gray dawn breaking through the cracks, her victories a pile of rubble under this new assault. She'd thought the raids were the end, thought Paul's arrest would break them, but his clique had one last card, a smear that painted her as the villain, her blood on the floor their proof. The agent beside her smirked, his badge glinting, "Should have quit while you were ahead." And she met his gaze, her eyes ice, her resolve unbroken. She'd crushed them before, she'd do it again. But the van's rumble was a countdown, her next move a mystery even to her. Maya Jackson sat rigid in the back of the SWAT van, her wrists chafed raw by cuffs, the steel biting deeper with every jolt as the vehicle barreled through Seattle's pre-dawn streets. Her torn suit clung to her, blood seeping through the gauze. On her shoulder, a sniper's graze from hours ago, now a dull roar beneath the fresh sting of betrayal. The fake video framing her as a terrorist looped in her mind. Paul Kendrick's remnant crew turning her expose into a noose, her victory over his syndicate shredded by a lie broadcast to millions. The SWAT agent beside her smirked, his buzz, cut glinting under the van's dim light, but she met his gaze with ice. Her dreadlocks matted with sweat, her resolve a steel rod in her spine. They'd hauled her from the bunker, Tara's cries fading as the door slammed. But she wasn't broken. Not yet. The van screeched to a halt outside Horizon Airways' Seattle headquarters, a sleek tower of glass and steel piercing the gray dawn, its logo a mocking beacon against the sky. They dragged her out, her bare feet scraping asphalt, the cuffs forcing her arms back as agents flanked her, rifles up, their boots a steady drumbeat. The lobby swarmed with suits, board members gaping, security scrambling, and she caught whispers. "That's her? The terrorist?" As they shoved her into an elevator, the doors sealing her in with 2 agents, their silence a wall she couldn't breach. Her phone was gone, Tara's laptop lost, but her mind raced, piecing the endgame. Paul's crew betting this frame-up would bury her for good. The elevator climbed, 30 floors in a heartbeat, and spat her into the executive suite, a glass-walled war room where power bled from every corner. Victor Langston, Horizon's CEO, stood at the head of a mahogany table, his grizzled frame dwarfing the room. A former pilot turned titan with a salt and pepper beard and eyes like storm clouds. He waved off the SWAT team, his voice a gravelly bark. "Uncuff her now!" And the agents hesitated, the lead buzzing his radio before complying, the steel snapping free as Maya rubbed her wrists, blood crusting her sleeve. Victor's gaze locked on her, sharp and unyielding, and he tossed a tablet onto the table, its screen frozen on the fake video, her face twisted into a bomber's snarl. "Explain this," he said, his tone a mix of fury and doubt. "Because I've got the board screaming you're a liability, and SWAT saying you're a threat. I need the truth, Maya." She straightened, her shoulder pulsing, her voice steady despite the chaos. "It's a lie, Victor. Paul Kendrick's crew faked it, doctored footage to frame me after I exposed their syndicate. Tara's tracing it, but they've got reach, cops in their pocket, militia on payroll. I'm your top investor, 10% of this company, and they want me gone because I'm a black woman who won't bend." Victor's jaw tightened, his fingers drumming the table, and he glanced at the board members huddled by the glass, their faces pale, ties askew. "I saw your leak," he said. "Paul's in cuffs, 20 more with him, FBI's tearing through his accounts. But this video, it's live, Maya. CNN's eating it up." She stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the polished floor, her eyes boring into his. "Then stop it, Victor. You're the CEO, my boss in name, but I own this fight. Shut down SWAT, pull the board in line, or Horizon's done. Stock's already tanking." He stared, a beat stretching long, then barked at security. "Get SWAT out. This is my call." The agents bristled, the lead muttering, "She's a suspect." But Victor's glare silenced him. "I said out." They retreated, rifles lowering, and the room exhaled, the board shuffling closer, their whispers a nervous hum. Victor turned back, his voice low. "You're right, Maya. You've got 10%, more sway than half these suits. I'm your boss, but you're mine too in a way. Tell me how we fix this." She nodded, her mind clicking into gear, and laid it out, her words a blade. "Tara's got proof. The IP's Phoenix, tied to Paul's last cronies. Air it live, expose the frame-up, show the world I'm clean. Then purge the rest, every name in that dossier, no mercy." Victor's eyes narrowed, a flicker of respect breaking through, and he grabbed his phone, dialing Derek Voss, his voice booming. "Derek, get Tara's data. We're going live now." The board murmured, a mix of fear and awe, and within minutes, a tech crew stormed in, cameras rolling as Victor took the podium, Maya beside him, her torn suit a badge, her blood a testament. The feed cut to every network, Victor's gruff voice filling the air. "Maya Jackson's no terrorist. She's our biggest investor, my boss in stakes, and she's been targeted by a racist syndicate we've rooted out. This video's a fake. Here's the proof." Tara's logs flashed, the Phoenix IP burner server, Paul's last gasp laid bare, and Maya stepped up, her voice steady. "I fought for my seat, my rights, and they tried to kill me for it. Paul's crew's done, but Horizon stands with me now." The room erupted, board members nodding, security sealing the floor, and Twitter flipped. Justice for Maya roaring back, "She's cleared," drowning out the fading Maya lies. Paul's last cronies, cornered by the broadcast, cracked live on. Air, a Phoenix cop and a militia thug confessing in cuffs. Paul paid us, said frame her or die. Their voices trembling as FBI agents loomed. Maya watched, her chest loosening, the world bending to her truth. Victor's reveal a hammer that smashed the lie. She'd flipped it, turned their frame up into her coronation. Her 10% a crown, no one could strip. The board clapped, a hesitant ripple, and Victor grinned, a rare crack in his stone face. You've got guts, Maya. Lead that task force, fix us. She nodded, her shoulder a dull ache, thinking she'd won. The war over at last. Then the suite's doors burst. Open, Paul Kendrick storming in, his orange jumpsuit traded for a wrinkled suit, a gun in his hand, his bail posted by some unseen hand. "You'll never belong here," he screamed, his voice a feral howl, his eyes wild with hate as he leveled the pistol at her chest. Shots rang out, a deafening crack splitting the air, board members diving, security lunging as Maya ducked, her good arm shielding her face. Victor roared, "Get him!" And the room dissolved into chaos, glass shattering, screams echoing. Paul's last stand a bullet storm she hadn't seen coming. She hit the floor, her wound tearing open, blood pooling as security tackled Paul, his gun skittering across the hardwood, his rant slurring into rage. "She's nothing, nothing." They pinned him, knees on his back, cuffs snapping tight. But Maya stayed down, her breath shallow, the room spinning. Victor knelt beside her, his gruff voice cutting through. "Stay with me, Maya, you're hit." She shook her head. "Just the shoulder, worse now." Her voice a rasp as medics rushed in, their hands a blur. Paul's eyes met hers, a dying ember of hate, and she stared back, unbroken, her victory intact despite the blood, the bullets, the chaos he'd unleashed. They dragged him out, his screams fading down the hall, the cameras still rolling, the world watching as medics patched her up, her suit a ruin, her dreadlocks streaked with red. Victor stood, his hand on her good shoulder. "You're the boss here, Maya, you've proved it." She nodded, her pulse steadying, the syndicate gutted, Paul's last gasp a failure, her name cleared on every screen. The board huddled, their fear shifting to respect, and she rose, wincing, her bare feet firm on the floor. The war won, or so it seemed. The gunfires echo a warning she couldn't shake. Maya Jackson knelt on the hardwood floor of Horizon Airways' executive suite, her torn suit soaked with blood from her reopened shoulder wound, the air thick with the metallic tang of gunfire and the sharp sting of shattered glass. Paul Kendrick's wild shot still echoed in her ears, his final scream. "You'll never belong here!" Fading as security pinned him, his wrists cuffed, his face a mask of defeated rage. Victor Langston, the CEO, loomed beside her, his gruff frame bloodied, from a bullet graze on his shoulder, his tackle having knocked Paul's aim wide, saving her life by inches. Medics swarmed, their hands swift as they pressed gauze to her wound, her dreadlocks streaking red. But she waved them off, her good hand gripping the table's edge as she rose, her bare feet steady despite the chaos. The room spun, board members, cowering behind overturned chairs, the live cameras still rolling, broadcasting Paul's collapse to millions, her victory etched in every frame. Victor's voice cut through, a gravelly roar. "Stay with me, Maya, you're tougher than this." And she met his gaze, her breath ragged but her resolve iron. "I'm fine," she rasped, her shoulder screaming. "Just patch me up." The medics obeyed, wrapping her arm tight. The pain a dull pulse she ignored as Paul was dragged out, his rants slurring into silence, the suite's glass walls spiderwebbed with cracks from his bullets. She'd won, flipped his last stand into her coronation, the syndicate gutted, her name cleared, Horizon's board bowing to her clout. Victor straightened, wincing as a medic bandaged his own graze, and turned to her, his storm cloud eyes softening. For the first time, "You're the boss here, Maya," he said, his hand heavy on her good shoulder. 10% or not, you've proved it. Lead us. Take my chair. Fix this mess." The board nodded, their suits rumpled, their fear shifting to awe, and she stood taller, her blood a badge, her bare feet rooted to the floor. She'd fought from gate B7 to this, a black woman who'd turned their hate into her throne, and they wanted her to rule, to rebuild Horizon from the ashes Paul's crew had left. She opened her mouth, ready to accept, to seize the reins. Then, stopped, her mind flashing to every blow. The note, the cuffs, the bomb, the sniper, the mob, a war she'd barely survived. "No," she said, her voice low, cutting through the room's hum, a blade of ice that froze them all. Victor blinked, his hand dropping. "What?" She stepped back, her good arm crossing her chest, her eyes blazing. "I'm not taking your chair, Victor. I'm done." She turned to the cameras, her torn suit a testament, her blood a crown, and spoke, her words steady. "Paul's finished, his clique's dead, but Horizon's rotten to the core. I exposed it, bled for it, but I won't carry it. I sold my shares 10% to a black-led firm effective an hour ago. They'll burn this down and build something new. I'm out." The room gasped, board members scrambling, Victor's jaw dropping as the medics froze, their hands mid-motion. She'd flipped it, not just Paul's war, but the game itself, her exit a bomb that dwarfed his bullets. The live feed cut to chaos, CNN's ticker screaming, Maya Jackson sells Horizon stake, crashes old guard, Twitter erupting, Maya rising trending as the stock plummeted, a free fall no one could stop. She'd turned their offer into her rejection. Her blood-soaked stand a final act that rewrote the skies, handing power to those who'd never had it, a legacy bigger than any chair. Victor stammered, "Maya, you can't. We need you." But she shook her head, her dreadlocks swaying, her voice cold. "You're done," she said, echoing Paul's defeat back at him. "Horizon's old ways die today." She stepped past him, her bare feet crunching glass, and walked to the elevator, medics trailing, security parting, the board's whispers a fading hum. The doors closed, the suite vanishing, and she leaned back, her wound a steady ache, her breath deep, free for the first time since Phoenix. She'd fought for her seat, her life, her truth, and now she'd walked away, leaving Horizon to crumble, a new empire rising from her fire. The elevator dinged, spitting her into the lobby, cops and cameras swarming as she strode out, her torn suit a banner, her blood a story. Tara waited outside, her car idling, her face a mix of shock and pride. As Maya slid in, "You sold it all?" Maya nodded. "To Black Future Inc., they'll remake it, no compromise." Tara grinned, peeling out, the tower shrinking in the rear view, Seattle's gray dawn breaking wide. The news hit. Horizon's old guard falls, Maya's exit sparks, revolution. And she watched, her phone buzzing with a million voices, her fight done, her legacy sealed. She'd flipped every script, turned Paul's gun into her exit, Victor's plea into her power, and walked away. Not to lead, but to destroy. A stunning reversal that left Horizon in ruins, and the skies open for those who'd follow. The car sped on, the city fading, her wound a scar she'd wear. A black woman who'd fought for everything and chose to burn it down. Her seat just the start of a war she'd won her way. Maya Jackson's journey in this gripping tale offers raw, unflinching lessons about resilience, betrayal, and the cost of fighting systemic racism. First, it shows that standing up to injustice, like Maya did at Gate B7, isn't a one-and-done battle. It's a war with escalating stakes, notes, cuffs, bombs, and bullets. Her relentless spirit teaches us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the will to push through when the world wants you broken. Second, Carla's betrayal reveals a brutal truth. Allies can turn, especially under pressure, and trust is a luxury in a fight this dirty. Maya's ability to pivot, exposing Carla and Paul's syndicate, underscores the power of adaptability. When the game changes, you change faster. Third, the story hammers home the depth of systemic bias. Paul's clique wasn't just personal, it was a network baked into Horizon's bones, showing how racism festers in structures, not just people. Finally, Maya's stunning exit, selling her shares to crash the old guard, teaches that victory doesn't always mean taking the throne. Sometimes it's burning the castle down and walking away, leaving room for something better. This isn't just Maya's story. It's a mirror for anyone facing prejudice's ugly face. It asks us to dig deep, to question who's really in our corner, and to rethink what winning looks like. So, what do you take from this? Did Maya's final move shock you, or was it the ultimate power play? Drop a comment with your thoughts. Hit that like button if her grit fired you up, and subscribe to catch more tales of defiance. Share this if you believe in tearing down broken systems for a fairer fight. Thanks for riding this roller coaster with us. Here's to more stories that spark change and fuel your fire.